I'm here because I'm a recovering alcoholic myself.
And you've got 30.
40 years of sobriety.
Recovery Vow is sponsored by Aggressors Adventure, Posey Funeral Directors, and Craig International, among many other sponsors. Thank you for your support. Well, on today's episode of Recovery Vow, I have a special guest, and I'm pretty excited. So I don't know if we've kind of panned over to this guest yet, but it's somebody that everybody knows. He comes around seasonally. He's got a good laugh, but it's Santa Claus. Santa, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. I am very happy to be here.
Yeah. Now, folks are going to look at this and they're going to be like, okay, why is Santa Claus on Recovery Vow? Well, that's because Chuck's going to tell us a little bit about who he is. But I just want to say, for you to come on here and just follow my request to come in full Santa gear.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Like I said, it's my pleasure. And, I'm here because I'm a recovering alcoholic myself.
And you've got 30.
I checked the calendar last Thursday, the 17th.
Yeah.
I hit 40 years of sobriety.
Good for you.
My last drink, I remember it was the evening of October 16th, 1984. And so
those 60s and 70s, those kids, they're just crazy times.
Yeah, they were. And most people didn't realize that I drank that much.
Yeah. Now, you weren't Santa then, Chuck.
No, I wasn't Santa then. I was in the Army then.
Okay.
I was in the Army then, and one of the funny things is 2 weeks after I got sober, I got called in my NCOIC's office because he wanted to talk to me because people had been saying that, I'd been looking a little bit rough and wondering if, anything was going on. Maybe I've been hitting the bottle a little bit too hard. And that's when I explained to him, I said, John, this is what it looks like when you put off having a hangover for 3 years. And he's like, what? I said, yeah, for the last 3 years, I've been drunk every day, legally drunk every day.
Even in the military?
Even in the military. If I got up at, 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom, I'd have a couple beers before I went back to bed.
Really?
And so I pretty much stayed drunk the whole time, and nobody realized it because they'd never seen me sober.
Did you join the military as a functioning alcoholic?
No, I wasn't drinking much back then. My drinking started heavily after my divorce from my first wife. And then when I was a single parent, and then I was in Germany away from my son. My son stayed with my parents while I was in Germany, and so that didn't help any.
Yeah.
And then one day I just realized, one of two things was going to happen. I was going to completely destroy my military career, or I was going to end up dying, or probably both. And so I knew I had to do something. I had a friend who was a minister. He came over. I had him go through the house and find all my alcohol and dump it in the sink.
So you're thinking about doing this cold turkey?
Yeah. And then I called my brother. My brother, he was in the Navy at the time. He was a recovering alcoholic, and he helped counsel people in the Navy. And I didn't really want to join any formal program because I didn't want that, on my military record. And so I was on the phone to my brother pretty much every night for a month, talking to him. Things weren't going good. Him and I would talk, and he helped me a lot. He kept pulling me back from that ledge.
Did he? Did you get discharged from the military, or were you able to work it out?
I was able to work it out.
That's good.
I stayed in the military. I retired after 22 years in 1995. So,
okay. 95. Where was I at 95? I just kind of got into using in 95. So
after a month, you hit the point where, I'm not sure if this is working too good. And I got a magical phone call. I call
I
it.
read this on your questionnaire. This magical phone call
The
was from Miss
magical
Claus, right?
phone call. Yes.
Or
And this,
soon to be Mrs.
yes,
Claus.
this was back in the day before, we had caller ID, so the phone rang and you just answered it and took your chances. And there was this sweet woman's voice on the other end saying, "Is this Chuck, Jim and Linda's friend?" I'm like, "Yeah." And, Jim was a guy I worked with out of Fort Gordon. We were both in the Army. His wife worked at a restaurant where my future wife had been working. Turned out, I didn't know about it, but Linda had been trying to set us up for about 6 months.
And you had no idea.
I had no idea. Deb, my wife, she wouldn't have anything to do with it because she was married at the time.
Well, that's a good reason.
Yeah, even though everybody knew her marriage was circling the drain.
Okay.
And then,
But still, that's a good
still,
reason.
she was like, no, I'm not cheating on my husband. No matter how bad my marriage is, I don't want anything to do with this guy. And then the day that she filed for divorce from me, finally, she had moved back in with her parents with her 2.5-year-old son. And she called up Linda and said, "Give me that guy's number. I just need a guy to vent to for a little while." And that's when she called me. And we talked for an hour and a half or so and hit it off real good. And we actually talked every night that week. And on Saturday, my son we were having his 9th birthday party. It was going to be at Showbiz Pizza, which is now Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. Showbiz. Flashback.
And I invited her and her son to meet us there and join us.
That's a sweet first date.
Yeah. And so we'd had, me and her and our 2 kids. Then afterwards, went back to our house. And my son tried to kill it right then and there because he wanted to give her a tour of the house. Like I said, he's 9 years old.
Yeah.
Tour of the house, and he's showing her out. Gets into the master bedroom. And I had just recently got this gigantic king-size waterbed. Yeah. And my son goes, "This is my dad's room," and he sleeps in this big bed all alone. Deb just looks at, "How much did you pay that boy to say that?" We just hit it off perfectly.
That's great.
We still talk to each other every night. And then it got to the point where I would pick my son up from the babysitter after school, and I'd pull into the driveway, and her son were sitting there waiting on us so she could fix us supper.
That's sweet. Were you in the military still at this
Yes,
time?
I was still in the military. This was in 1984.
Okay.
Like I said, a month after I had stopped drinking. Eventually, I gave her a key so she didn't have to wait in the driveway because she was all fix us something to eat because she went through my pantry.
That was pretty quick, Santa.
Yes, it was. It was very quick. We did not live together until after we were married.
I'm loving everything you're saying so far, that you're kind of honoring that you don't mess around when you're married.
Right. Because we
don't live together.
We each had a young child. Hers was 2.5. Mine was 9.
Blended
They're
family.
now ours.
Yep.
And no, we're not going to subject them to that. At the end of the night, her son went their way and my son stayed.
Did you ever tell her that you were in recovery after that first month?
I did. And I found out if I had still been drinking, we never would have had a relationship.
Really?
Right. Because her father was a very heavy drinker growing up. And her ex-husband was a drug user. If I had still been actively drinking, she wouldn't have had anything to do with me.
Now, when you say that you stopped drinking, you did it cold turkey?
I did it cold turkey. And
Not a lot of people can do that.
It wasn't fun, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How much were you up to at your
I drank,
point of stopping?
During the week when I would, kind of take it easy, I drank a 12-pack of beer every day. And then I really got to do the heavy drinking on the weekends.
Yeah.
As I would tell people jokingly, I never drank on an empty stomach. I always ate at least 1 6-pack of beer before I started drinking. And, but then 2 months later, on her birthday, we went out to eat, and I asked her to marry me. And she said,
How many weeks?
2 months.
2 months.
2 months after we met.
Okay.
And then 3 weeks later, on Valentine's Day, 1985, we were married in our living room. This coming Valentine's Day, we'll celebrate our 40th anniversary.
Isn't that something?
It is. And most people, there were two bets going on when we got married after 3 months.
Yeah.
One, she was pregnant. Our daughter was born 2 years after we got married.
Okay.
So it wasn't that. And two, we wouldn't even make it a year. And here we are coming up on 40 years. Our parents on both sides weren't too sure if we were going to actually make it.
Yeah. I would have, if I'd have known you guys, I would have questioned it too. I mean,
Oh, yeah. The
that's
guy
a lot.
asked to be my best man. He's like, "Are you sure about this? You haven't known her that long." I said, "I'm sure. She's the one." And I was right. She's the
You
love
just
of...
jingled when you should.
Yeah.
If you touch your nose and fly out of here, I'm
Yeah,
going to freak
yeah.
out.
She's the love of my life. I can't imagine my life without her.
That's so sweet.
I don't want to imagine my life without her. Now, has our marriage been perfect? Everything all, flowers and butterflies? No. We've had our issues, but we've always worked through them together. Our love has always guided us. And, it's great. Matter of fact, because of the fact that we got married at our house, my daughter, when she decided to get married, her and her now husband, they'd been together for 10, 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because my wife and I, we were well over 30 years by then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she was like,
You guys did it that way. I'm
"That's
gonna do it
good
that way."
luck." And so she wanted to get married at her house, surprising all her friends because they didn't know they'd been invited for a wedding. They thought they were going over for an engagement party.
Oh, and just showed up. Oh, okay. I've seen that on TV before. They just show up and,
Yeah,
by the way, we're getting married today.
Yeah, that's the way
Okay.
it was. They took everybody outside. "Yeah, we're going to play some games at this party. Let's get half you over on this side of the yard and half you over on this side of the yard." And like, yeah, we lied. This isn't an engagement party. We're about to have a wedding. And one of my grandsons started playing the music over the speakers, and my daughter and I walked out, walked her to the end of the yard, handed her off to her now husband. And then I'm also a wedding officiant. So then I turned around and I performed their ceremony.
You do it all.
Yeah, like I tell people, I'm retired with 4 part-time jobs: photographer, Santa, wedding officiant, and the Easter Bunny. Other than that, I don't do anything.
That's a lot, though. I mean, that keeps you busy through the year.
Yeah, I'm like my grandfather. I don't know how to be retired.
A lot of addicts are like that, though.
Yeah, I got my first job when I was 13.
Same.
And so
I was moving furniture. What
Yeah,
was your
I
first
was-
job?
I was working on a dairy farm.
Okay.
The guy
Where
that
are you from?
I'm from Michigan originally.
Okay.
The guy we rented our house from had a dairy farm.
Let me ask you something. Did you start drinking on the dairy farm? Like, was that the age you?
I
that the
drank
age that
I
you
drank some in high
dove in?
school, yeah.
When did you know? When did you know you had a problem?
I had an inkling of it my first tour in Korea in the 70s because I did a lot of partying and drinking there. And I definitely knew it when I got to Germany in the early 80s.
Gotcha.
And like I said, when I got back, I stayed drinking after I left Germany. I was, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I stayed drinking up there. And, when I moved down here, same thing. And like I said, I was a single parent at the time. And it finally hit me. Like, dude, you're either going to completely destroy your Army career, which you put too much into it now to end it, or you're going to end up killing yourself. And neither one of them was a good option. And so I knew that I had to quit.
You ever get any of the drugs?
I smoked some pot early on, when I was in
Not
college.
the cocaine or?
No, I never did any of that.
How much were you drinking, Santa?
Like I said, I was drinking a 12-pack every day. And you got
Even during the day, like when you got up, you were drinking from.
Yeah, well, not as soon as I got up, but like I said, if I got up at 4:00 in the morning to go to the bathroom, I'd have a couple of beers before I went back to bed. And a couple could be anywhere from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
And then I would stop at the store on my way home and get a 12-pack. And I would start drinking that on the way home. By the time I went to bed, I had, 2 or 3 of that 12-pack left.
That's something.
And then on weekends, like I said, that's when I really did my serious drinking. I might drink 2 cases on a weekend.
Well, take me back to your childhood. What do you think made you become addicted?
I think to a degree, what now my dad was not a heavy drinker. He got drunk every now and then, but he
Yeah.
wasn't always drinking. My oldest brother there was no doubt he was an alcoholic, and he almost got thrown out of the Navy because of it. Because one day he was driving down Interstate 5 in California because he was stationed at, I believe he was stationed with the Marines at Camp Pendleton. He was a naval corpsman. And he decided the people in all the lanes were going too slow. And so he pulled over into the median to start passing people. And he flipped his car end over end 3 times. And he got a bruise on his chest.
That was it.
Yeah, because the car he had the hood that opened this way instead of this way, and the battery came out, went through the steering wheel, and hit him in the chest. Police came by, like, what happened? He said, oh, no, I just got here. He had no idea. They took him back a couple days later after he got sobered up to see his car. And the only place in that car where somebody had any chance of surviving at all was right behind the steering wheel. The passenger's side, the back seat, they were completely destroyed. Nobody could have survived being in any of those seats. But where he was sitting was the only place, and he realized, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah. So he was cold turkey too.
Yeah, he went. I'm not sure how cold turkey he was, but yeah, he did it. Him and I talked a lot during the first few months because, he was.
He worked kind of like to be your sponsor?
Yeah, more or less a sponsor without being, formally in any program. He was pretty much my sponsor, and he took me through all the things. He gave me the tips on, okay, this is what you need to avoid. These are circumstances that you need to avoid so you don't take that drink.
So you didn't work like a 12-step program? Or
not
kinda?
A formal one. I kind of went it through what he did.
Yeah.
And
well, I've always said that recovery is kind of like, some people get it with like AA programs or 12-step programs. I did. I went through treatment and then got into a 12-step program and worked those steps with a sponsor. And then some people, they do the cold turkey thing. Some people pray. Some people kind of like going to a gym. It's like you go to these different gyms until you find the one that works for you best. I don't go to gyms at all.
Yeah,
but I feel like you can apply that same mindset to recovery, just as long as you find something that works.
Right. Everybody has to find whatever program works for them.
Yeah.
If it's AA or NA, then go.
Yeah.
Do it.
Celebrate recovery.
If it's, if it's cold turkey, or if you're just, somehow easing off on your own. And one thing, if I meet somebody, which last year when I was doing Santa, one of the young ladies who was helping photograph, I can't say where it was at, but she was helping photograph. And I learned one day that she had just got her 3-day chip from AA. And, it was completely something I wasn't supposed to do. But I just went and gave her a big hug.
Oh.
And told her.
Why weren't you supposed to do that?
Well, because of where we were working, with me being Santa, her being one of the elves and everything. It wasn't really something I was supposed to do.
Not a good look.
Yeah.
For Santa to be hugged up.
But there wasn't any kids around, so I did that, and I still keep in contact with her, and I regularly tell her that I'm very proud of her.
Yeah, I saw that you wrote that on your questionnaire, that one phrase, I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I don't care if it's somebody I've never met or never will met. If they have stopped and if they're working to become sober, I'm proud of them because I know it's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. And people need to hear that. They need to know that somebody's proud of them.
Yeah, they need to hear that because otherwise they, what's the use? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And so, people like that, I will tell them that I am very proud of them and do what I can to encourage them. And if they happen to, slip back and take a few drinks, like, it's okay. It happens to some
Yeah.
people. But, don't quit.
So tell me a few things. I got a few questions because one, I'm interested in your marriage and how did recovery help your marriage? But then you also mentioned that you guys are a blended family. So how did
Yes.
your recovery help that? And then do you share any of your testimony with your kids?
Yes, my kids all know because my wife and I, 2 years after we were married, we had a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've never, talked about having stepchildren. There are children.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, occasionally my wife would mention when somebody would our old, it's like, you don't look old enough to have a son that old. It's like, oh, well, yeah, technically he's my stepson.
Yeah. But I'm glad that you call him yours.
Yeah, there are kids. Now I would have happily adopted her son, but he didn't want to be adopted. He wanted to keep his original last name, and that's fine. He's still my son.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did you see his dad?
he doesn't see his dad anymore because his dad went back to doing drugs too much. And so,
that stinks.
I mean, we used to encourage him to see his dad. We used to have his dad over to our house for like Thanksgiving meal because we wanted him, to still have that contact. But once his dad went back to using drugs, like, no, we can't have you contacting him anymore.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you got to have that balance of
So
what do you call it? You don't want to enable him.
Yeah.
Because do you believe that addiction is generational?
I do believe to a degree it can be generational.
Yeah, I do.
Like I said, my brother, he's 6 years older than me. He was an alcoholic. My dad drank. I don't really think he was an alcoholic. My uncle may have been.
Yeah.
My dad's older brother. He drank quite frequently. A lot of the rest of them I don't know because my biological grandfather actually died before my father was born, about 2 months before my dad was born.
Oh, no.
They claimed it was a flu epidemic, but my great-grandmother said no, it had nothing to do with the flu. His appendix burst. But the doctors...
And that was a killer back then?
Oh, yeah, this is back in 1926.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you die from a good cold.
And well, that's what they're saying. 21-year-old guy, he starts running a fever, nausea, vomiting, pain in his stomach and everything. And there had been a flu epidemic in that area where they lived.
Yeah.
And then he died, and they're like, yep, yeah, he's just another statistic for the flu that we had going through here. But like I said, my great-grandmother, no, that wasn't the flu.
Talk to me about this role of Santa Claus. I mean, you had how many years in recovery, and then you said one day, I'm going to be Santa.
Yeah, well.
And why?
I worked as a photographer.
Okay.
And
because we have a mutual friend that's a photographer,
yes.
Sally.
And matter of fact,
fantastic.
That's basically how I got into it because I would help her a lot of times.
Oh, okay.
Doing her Santa sessions at different places. And a lot of the different Santas would look at me and like, you have the attitude and you pretty much have the look. Why aren't you doing it? And then after a while, I realized, like, I don't really have any more excuses. I love being with children. I love making people happy. And so I decided 5 years ago, I'm going to try it. What had happened, because I do photography out at a local flea market, and they used to have their own guy do Santa. And then they stopped that because their upper management said, no, we need to let vendors do the money-making stuff.
Upper management at the flea market.
Yeah.
Had something to say.
Yeah, because it's a company that owns numerous flea markets around the Southeast.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and
that's pretty funny though.
Yeah.
Just when you say upper management of the flea market.
Yeah, and so I asked,
like saying the CEO of Walmart.
I asked the manager, it's like, well, it's okay if I come out here and every now and then kind of wander around in my Santa suit. you could set up and do pictures. You can find somebody to take them. And so I was talking to another photographer friend of mine that I ran into out there. She said, I'll take the pictures. Let's do it. And so we started doing it out there because I was already set up for printing on site.
Yeah.
And so we would set up a background and she would come in, take all the pictures, and we'd print them and sell them to the families right then and there. And then another photographer friend owns a roadside market out in Trenton, South Carolina. And every December they have a kind of a crafts fair.
Yeah. We went to Trenton yesterday. There's a new, I think it's called Sarah's Market or Sarah's Adventure Park or something.
Yeah, I know where Sarah's is.
It looks really cool.
Yeah. And,
that was a selfish pitch for Sarah, by the way. Sarah, if you're listening, shout out.
So we would go to this market. We've set up for the last 5. This will be our 5th year setting up there. We do the same thing. We take the pictures out there, print them on site, and it's just so much fun for me.
It seems like it brings you a lot of joy. Do you feel like it helps you stay sober?
It does, because
even at 40 years?
Even at 40 years, because it's something that gives me a lot of joy. I enjoy it so much.
Out of everything else with the Easter Bunny and the photography, do you enjoy being Santa the most?
Santa is probably what I enjoy the most, because the Easter Bunny is nowhere near as fun.
Yeah, because you have the mask on.
Because you've got that big head on. The Easter Bunny's expression never changes.
So when you get a little peek inside of these kids' lives, you get an opportunity to hear them be vulnerable and sad and happy.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're screaming their heads off. And then sometimes, what's been something that really touched your heart that a kid sat on your lap, if you could think back over the last 5 years, that really said, daggum, wish I could do something for that family? Could you tell, like, maybe the mom or dad was in addiction?
Not that I've noticed.
That's a big question.
Because usually, if it's one of those parents, they're not the one who's bringing them.
That's a good point.
But there is one of my favorite little girls. She's in a wheelchair. I believe she has cerebral palsy. I'm not exactly sure, but she is just so sweet. Her dad would bring her to see the Easter Bunny and Santa. And last year, when I was playing at this big store doing Santa, this little girl had the people playing elves just about in tears.
Why?
We moved the bench that was next to my chair so she'd get her wheelchair right in there. And because, I wanted her close to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've got my arm around her as we get the picture. And she grabbed this hand, started kissing it.
Oh.
And like I said, all the girls who were taking the pictures and everything, they were just about in tears. And I was having trouble holding them back myself because she's so sweet like that.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I see her, it doesn't matter how I'm dressed, she sees me, she knows I'm Santa. And a lot of kids are like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think last time I saw you, I gave you one of the coins.
Yeah, tell me about the coin. Okay, I want my listeners, or all the listeners, to hear. So when I first met you, it was at Sally's. Sally's a sponsor of the podcast, and we love our sponsors. And you happened to be coming out of her studio.
Yeah.
And that's where we met, in the parking lot. And you gave me a couple of these chips. But yeah, I thought it was really cool what you gave me.
Yeah, I had these, and I've been using these for a couple of years. It says, little red chip says, I met Santa, and I made the nice list. And on the back it says, remember the reason for the season.
But these are just like, can I hold one?
Yeah.
These are just like sobriety chips, like your 30-day chip, your 90-day chip.
And then.
But you said you switched from these. You're not doing these this year.
I'm not doing these this year. I came out with something else.
What's that key go to? Does that key go to your sleigh?
This is Santa's magic key for the kids who live in apartments and places where they don't have a chimney for Santa to go down. This key opens every place, so Santa can always get in to deliver the presents. But this year, and I saw another Santa online doing something similar.
Copyright.
I gave this to kids. Got my picture on it.
Let me on my glasses. I'm going to try to read this. Santa caught you being nice. Let me read the back. This is how to get on and stay on Santa's nice list. Show kindness to others. Do your best in school. Follow directions. Obey your grown-ups. Remember the reason for the season. That's really cool.
And I give that to kids, and even if they're too young to be able to read that, I'll let the parents know. Folks can read to you on the back what you got to do to stay on the nice list. And the parents appreciate that because, now they've got something the kids have from Santa
Yeah.
that, tells them, okay, this is what you have to do to get on the nice list or stay on it.
You're a good Santa.
Plus, as a selfish thing, with this, that applies, the chip applies to any Santa.
Yeah.
The card, that's only me.
But here's what I like about the chip. If I was a parent in recovery and I saw this Santa give a chip and I was new in recovery, like year one, I know that 30-day chip, 60-day chip, 90-day chip, 1 year chip. So that's going to, I just, you know what? After I saw you doing this, I had some chips made and it just says the podcast name on it. Nothing fancy, but you can use it as a ball marker in golf or just keep it in your pocket like a little reminder. Because that was pretty impactful. It made me think about recovery that day whenever you gave it to me.
And whichever one I use, I always carry them in my pocket. Because for me, being Santa isn't a seasonal thing.
Right.
It's a year-round thing. During the summer, I wear red pants and a Hawaiian shirt, which is what you saw me in.
And Crocs. I saw you.
Crocs, which is basically the summer Santa uniform for all of us. And we...
Yeah, because you said you're in some kind of a group or club here in town?
Yes, there is a group here in town. It's called CSRA Santas. And I think there's over 100 members in it.
But y'all are like legit because there was something about bearded, like legit bearded
that's a
Santa
different
or something.
thing. There's actually a international club. It's called the International Brotherhood of Real Bearded Santas.
All this is real.
All this is real.
This is real too?
The hair, that's my hair.
That's your hair?
That's my hair. Yeah, see, that's all mine.
Holy moly.
That's all mine.
I can't grow a strip of that.
No.
I was looking for a Santa hat. I was going to have a Santa hat on the podcast with you.
The color may not be what mine would actually be. But
no, it's legit, man.
And I have this professionally done to make it look more Santified.
Well, like I said, I'm so thankful that you did the full get up for today's episode because when we release this, it'll be Christmas and it'll be kind of sweet.
And I've got a lot of people that have been telling me, like, when that comes out, you got to send me the link because I want to see it.
Yeah, we will. I'll make sure you'll get a copy.
Because a lot of people, I don't hide the fact that I'm a recovering alcoholic.
And I love that.
It's not something I hide.
You break anonymity. You can't really, in my opinion, we can't do step 12 if we're not willing to break our anonymity a little bit.
I don't walk up to people on the street. Hey, I'm Chuck. I'm a recovering alcoholic. Yeah, I don't do that. But when, friends of mine, I don't, people say, hey, you want to go out and get a drink? So no, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I don't drink, but I'll go out with you.
Yeah.
Because I've hit the point in my recovery where unless they're getting really drunk, I don't mind being around somebody who is taking a drink.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother.
You can't go to restaurants or anything.
Yeah, it's just like when I quit smoking, which I did over 20 years ago.
Okay.
Which was actually harder to quit smoking than it was drinking.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I'd been smoking for a whole lot longer.
Yeah, I did too.
And so I tapered off from there.
I quit a couple of years after I quit drinking. I quit smoking.
Yeah, it took me. I used to joke.
I think I felt better after I quit smoking. No, I can't say that. I had a lot of drugs in my system, so I felt a lot better when I quit drinking.
Like I used to joke with people. Well, still do. I used to drink, smoke, and chase wild women.
Santa, calm it down.
I quit drinking. One of them wild women caught me.
How many? I mean, what kind of clubs is at the North Pole that you're going to?
Hey, we got them poles up there. But yeah, and I quit smoking, and it's all been good. Now, our daughter smokes.
Yeah.
Our middle son smokes. They all drink occasionally, but fortunately, none of them have moved on into alcoholism.
That's fantastic. I think that comes as a testimony to you. And did you say it was Miss Deb?
Yeah.
I think that's a testimony to you and Miss Deb. So What's the last 40 years been like married, in recovery, blended
Uh,
family, all the things?
it's been great. Like I said, it hasn't been the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, no marriage is.
Yeah, we've had our issues, but made it through everything. You know, because now neither me or my wife is particularly religious, but we are very spiritual.
Yeah.
We believe in God and Jesus, and we pray a lot, and that has helped us. And our love for each other. Like I said, one of the
Now I know that you told me when we met that you have to take care of your wife 24/7.
yeah, she has health problems,
Okay.
and but that doesn't take away from our love any. It strengthens our love because you know, yeah, she needs my help for doing a lot of things. I do all the grocery shopping. I do almost all the cooking. I don't mind.
That's great.
She's the love of my life. I do everything I can to help her, and our kids have seen that.
Yeah.
They've seen like a lot of kids. They grow up. They never see any affection between their parents. They never hear their parents say, I love you. They never see their parents holding hands or kissing or anything like that. Our kids grew up seeing that.
That's sweet.
We would always tell each other we loved it. We'd tell
That's
our kids,
impactful for kids.
you know,
It
we
really
hug-
is.
Yeah,
It's impactful to see a good mom and a dad in a relationship in sobriety or,
yeah,
responsible. But I really I believe, and my parents were great,
yeah,
but I don't know if their influence was that great. But yeah, we can be generational breakers because of how we parent. That's a
yeah.
huge part we play.
One thing my parents did is they made sure they called each other by their names. The reason is my grandparents never called each other by their names.
What they call?
Mom and dad. I was probably 13 or 14 before I knew what my grandfather's name was.
Really?
I'd never heard anybody say his name. We were over, I remember my family probably still laughs at this, those who are still with us, is we were over at my grandparents' house and their phone rang. I happened to be standing closest to it. So somebody said, Chuck, answer the phone. And so I answered it and they say, yeah, let me talk to Jim. I'm looking at the only Jim that I know in that room was my older brother.
You knew where
And so I gave the phone to him. I didn't know my grandfather's name was Jim.
Really?
I'd never heard anybody call him Jim. My aunts and uncles called him Dad or Pop. They called Grandma Mom or Mommy. And they called each other Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And so they never used and my parents, they went out of their way to make sure they used each other's names so that us and their grandkids would know that they actually had real names.
Yeah, my wife, if she calls me by my name, I'm in trouble. Usually it's saying babe or hey, honey, can you
Yeah,
help
well,
me with
I do
this?
that a lot with my wife, and I joke, I call her baby because I forgot her name 5 years ago, and I'm afraid to ask her. Our kids have grown up seeing the love between us. The fact that, my grandfather went and visited my grandmother in the nursing home at least once a week, probably more, even though she had no idea who he was. That's a love.
Yeah.
And, when my father passed away, my mother took it harder than anyone. One thing my family has is, family tradition. We have lousy hearts.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so my dad was medically retired before he was 50 for a heart issue. His older brother died at 52 from a heart attack. But my dad always bounced back. No matter how bad it looked, the next day he would be fine. I remember I was visiting between one of my overseas tours, and my mom and I were in the hospital. Dad was in there, and we were visiting him, and all of a sudden he started to have a seizure. And they rushed us out of the room. We were scared to death, didn't know what was going on. Doctor come out, told Mom, you probably need to get hold of the rest of your children, because I don't know if your husband's going to make it through the night. Next morning, we peek our heads in there. He's sitting up in the bed eating breakfast like nothing had happened. he got the reputation of being the comeback kid.
Like a cat.
Yeah. And when it finally got to the point where he wasn't coming back, my mother couldn't accept it. And so that was very, very difficult for her. Plus the fact that for the first time in her life, she was living on her own.
Did they ever? Did you ever suspect them of drinking or anything?
No, my mother
No.
never. She almost never. I think I saw her light one cigarette and put it out immediately. My dad, like I said, my dad would drink every now and then. He would get drunk.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that.
Yeah, but it wasn't a regular thing.
Right.
And as he got older and his health got worse, I almost never saw him drink.
Well, here's what I want to do. You give people presents all the time, so I've got a present I want to give you. This is a book that I wrote called Marriage After Addiction, Take Back Your Life Together. Now, listen, I know you and Miss Deb have been in this for 40 years.
Yeah.
But I would love and would be honored if you guys just read through that and give me some feedback.
Oh, we will.
And then, like I said, when this episode comes out, it'll be around Christmas. This will be one of our Christmas specials that goes out. But
Yeah.
I really want to go to Hope House. I think I looked at your calendar. I'd like to try to figure it out. I want to raise some funds or just give some toy donations in. I think they have 25 to 30 kids that live at Hope House during the Christmas season this year.
Okay.
That'll still be there. And maybe if you and I can go over there and that'll just be something we do for the community. Hope House is a recovery center transition house for women. And it is, they're accepted immediately if they're pregnant or have a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's, I think Karen said there's roughly 92 beds there, and they're currently at 80 are taken. And then they have, I think it was 25 to 27 kids that live there, but 0 to, I don't know, kindergarten, elementary school. So, but some of those ladies, they are married or want to get married. And so, I want to show them that a real live person can come in that's in recovery and a Santa and just kind of level the playing field with them, and just give them a little bit of hope, especially at Christmas. That'll be something I would really, really like to do. So I'll keep you posted on it.
If you can find a date, looking at my calendar, that we can do it, let me know and I'll find a way to make it work.
I'll make sure I do.
Anybody who is trying to get clean, I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
And I want these people to know it.
I love that you said that. I write that, and when people ask me to sign the book, that's because I don't really know what to write. I always write, "I'm proud of you."
Yeah. And like I said, too many people who are going through this, they're not even proud of themselves half the time. They're disappointed in themselves, and they need to be proud of themselves because it's not an easy thing to do. Some of them, the addiction destroyed their relationships, and they need to realize, you get out of the addiction, you can be happy and have a relationship. It happens. I know it for a fact.
2 months later.
Yeah. One thing people notice is I don't wear a wedding ring. I had a wedding ring, but when I got the wedding ring, I was like 115 pounds, and I'm way over that now, and it doesn't fit. And I don't need, my wife doesn't wear hers either. We don't need a wedding ring to let us know that we're married. I don't hide the fact that I'm a recovering alcoholic. I don't hide the fact that I'm married. And it surprises people.
Well, I just want to tell you how thankful I am that you took the time to come by on a Sunday.
My pleasure.
And be on this podcast with me, Recovery Vow podcast. You're going to reach a lot of people. I know that they're going to tune in and listen just because they see a Santa on here and it's going to be talking about recovery. But if you could say anything to anyone in this season as they're watching this podcast, what's one piece of advice you would give a person? Doesn't have to be male or female. Outside of I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. Just let the love happen.
Okay.
This is the season for happiness and love, and you deserve it. And if you work on it, you will get the happiness and the love. It's there. That it took me 7 years after I got divorced before I found anybody. I was at the point where I didn't think I was ever going to find anybody.
But you did, and as soon
I
as you
did.
did, you're like, all right, let's lock this thing in place,
Yeah.
Jeb.
I mean, it took no time at all to realize this is the woman for me.
All right. Well, before you go, I want you to sit on my lap and tell me what you want for Christmas, okay?
I think it's supposed to be the other way around.
We'll do that too. But we're going to get some cool pictures. But Chuck, appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Sure thing.
I really appreciate you.
Sure thing, Eric.
Stopping by. Hey, thanks for tuning in today's episode of Recovery Valve Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you would like to connect with us, you can connect with us through email at recoveryvalve@gmail.com, our website, recoveryvalve.com, or you can find us on our different social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. But we would love for you to go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. If you would like to pre-order a copy of my book, Marriage After Addiction, Take Back Your Life Together, you can do that through the store at exomarriage.com, or you'll see a link on any of our social media platforms. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Recovery Valve Podcast is brought to you by Goldneck, Newsom Electric, S&S Supplies, Carpet Cleaning Pros of Augusta, Rhett Walker, Atlas Health and Wellness, Norval Fixture and Equipment, Augusta Lawn and Turf, Augusta Dream Center, Bagwell Insurance, Sally Kohler Photography, Burroughs Elijah, Attorney at Law, Communigraphics, Kendra Neal Studio, Kendrick Paint and Body, Coleman Construction, Augusta Magazine, Corbin Jones State Farm, Game Changers, Tree Guys with Ties, Penn Roofing, Aggressors Adventure, Posey Funeral Directors, Craig International. And I want to say thanks to everyone else who's contributed to the Recovery Valve Podcast. We couldn't do this without you.